What's up, Brian Tong here, and this is my review for the all-new iPad mini. And when I say all new, I mean all new, because there's this brand new design with brand new tech inside. So I'm just gonna break it all down for you, and this is really intriguing for me. This is a product that, kind of snuck up on all of us, and as someone who has only owned the biggest screen iPad as far back as the very first generation, I gotta think to myself, is there a place where this mini fits in my life? Apple is really making me think hard about it, and more importantly, is it a product that just makes sense for you? Now, it's a refresh that we've honestly been waiting, 2-3 years for Apple to finally bring the iPad Pro design to the mini. You got the flatter body, flatter edges with this metal frame around the sides and rounded corners. This is really the signature Apple look across most of its entire product line now, and it looks great, especially in purple. Can you all tell? Purple's my favorite color, but it weighs 0.65 pounds, feels about the weight of a book. I think it's light, or I don't know, maybe it just feels light because I'm strong, but it's easy to hold. You won't get any wrist fatigue holding this, and you can even just really one-handed if you've been blessed with larger hands. Now, with the larger iPad Pro design, we know that the bezels are there, but the screen is so big that we don't notice them as much. With this iPad mini, when I saw it, and kind of what I expected, they look bigger in proportion to its 8.3-inch liquid retina display, even if the bezels are the same as the iPad Pros, but a little smaller screen. They look a little thicker, but it's just something I noticed right away, nothing big. Your hands and fingers, though, they're mostly when you're holding this, they're gonna be resting, over that bezel, so it doesn't block the screen. A lot of people like bezels because of that. This is also the biggest display the Mini has ever had with True Tone. You get 500 nits of brightness, and then the iPad Mini has Touch ID built into the power button up top here. So this is something that a lot of people wish came to the new iPhone lineup. It's not there, but it is here. And I'm just really used to having a Face ID camera in the bezel on the iPad Pro. So for me, it kind of changes my brain where I have to constantly remember, okay, go for the power button, touch that first to unlock it, and don't just stare at the screen and then swipe up. I think that this is absolutely a first world problem for people that might end up owning an iPad Pro and then a new iPad mini. But if this is your main iPad, or you just already have an iPad Air, this is gonna be business as usual. It just makes me think it's kind of weird how much that, it makes a difference when you've been trained a certain way. Good boy, Brian. Good boy. Now, its volume buttons have also been now moved to the top side. This is opposite side of the Touch ID power button. So if I want to adjust the volume manually when I'm holding this, I kind of have to change my hand position and reach up top here when using it vertically. But then when I'm holding it in landscape design, it's obviously more convenient because it's kind of right here next to my thumb in landscape mode. And yes, I can just swipe on the screen, activate Control Center, but I've always been that volume button guy. I like to touch the buttons when I change the volume. The new iPad mini also brings a 12 megapixel ultra wide front facing camera, and really one of my favorite features, center stage, where it tracks your movement during video calls through FaceTime, Zoom, other third-party apps, and it looks for faces to really focus in on, zooms in and out, and it does all the work for you. I think this is a big win that it's here. There is no Face ID, which would have probably driven up the cost here, but I know it can fit in the bezel, but I'd really like to see both Face ID and Touch ID as options really on all Apple hardware where it makes sense, instead of, hey, we got Face ID on some iPads and Touch ID on others. I just like to see it across the board. Now, one thing that I am happy to see here, though, look right here on the bottom, everybody, USB-C. Oh, you get more versatility, more connectivity devices, and really a true universal connection. Internally, this has the latest A15 Bionic processor with a 6-core GPU and a 5-core CPU. So this processor has been found to be underclocked at 2.9 gigahertz compared to the iPhone 13 Pro's A15 Bionic at 3.2 gigahertz. They both still have 6-core CPU, 5-core GPU. But the honest thing here is that it still flies with the multi-core performance. More importantly, this is a beast when it comes to graphics, with a 55% performance increase compared to the previous A14 Bionic. So gamers are gonna love hearing that. And it's bigger than your iPhone screen, but not too big. Easier to hold in hand, not as heavy. It might be kind of like that sweet spot for you. But bottom line, this thing feels fast and performs great. I've got no complaints, but I'm also, so used to really seeing ProMotion on these larger iPads that I do miss it here. It makes more of an impact for me on these larger screens versus maybe smaller phone ones. So, maybe that comes to the mini down the road. We'll see, but put that on my wish list. Now the speakers bring you stereo sound in landscape mode. This is pretty much every product this year is Apple's focused on making them just sound better. It also supports the second generation Apple Pencil, so this gives you the same feel, right? That tight responsiveness. You get magnetic charging and syncing. I love that move to give it the new current tech out there. It's obviously Apple's most portable tablet, take it wherever you want with Wi-Fi 6 and 5G options. It only supports one of the two flavors of 5G, so this mini supports sub 6 gigahertz, which is more common for the 5G flavor right now. That reaches further distances and is more widespread, but it doesn't have the fastest speeds. Now it won't have the other flavor, which is 5mm wave, which gets you faster speeds at shorter distances and is really more focused in denser areas like cities if it's available. Now that could be an issue depending on the country you live in or even the area and what your carrier supports, but 5G still is not everywhere. I still don't even have it in my area yet, so I'll wait patiently. And I really just use my iPhone as a hotspot for all my devices anyway, since it's always on me. Now having both flavors of 5G for the iPad mini would have been nice, like the current iPad Pro does, but the mini does support more 5G bands overall compared to the iPhone 12 and iPad Pro, so it does have better coverage globally in that sense. It might not be too much of a drawback now, but maybe in 2 or 3 years, you might wish it had support for millimeter wave 5G on top of what it does now. And I know I'm not the typical mini user, I never have been, but Apple has made this such a lust-worthy device, even for me. I mean, it is so gorgeous, it's so just fun to use and play with. Aside from, this classic space gray color, Apple's color choices for this lineup bring pink, purple, and starlight, so I feel like it leans towards more feminine colors, and its size obviously fits in smaller bags or purses. They are always gonna get me with the purple color. I love it so much, and put on the matching case, this thing still looks good. There's been a lot of pent-up demand for a new mini, and I felt like, we weren't going to get one after some pretty weak refreshes over the past few years, but Apple, they've just really thrown everything at this for the new iPad mini, and it won't be cheap though at $499, so look at their entry-level 910 iPad at $329 for comparison, and if that starts at $329, like, I didn't think there'd be any way that this completely redone mini was gonna come in at, let's say, $399. I would have liked to see it maybe even at $449, I would have, but if you're a casual user who's gonna be web surfing, reading emails, and watching content and taking it with you on the go, for me, it kind of does make the iPad Air look really tantalizing. At $599, that's only $100 more for that larger screen, and then the A15 Bionic just handles normal tasks like that just fine, if that's how you're going to use it. But then look at this thing on paper. The mini has a faster processor, maybe marginally in some cases based on certain benchmarks, but it's still faster. It's still a graphics beast compared to the A14 Bionic. You got better cameras for both the front and the back. 5G compatibility, the iPad Air doesn't have that. And its display also has a higher pixel density. So look at all that. The mini starts looking pretty good for $499. And the main appeal of the mini, it's always been its ultra portable size. And in this case, the smaller size, it matters. Like me. Its 12 megapixel camera shoots 4K video at up to 60 frames per second and can really be used in different creative ways. I know this is a personal thing for me, but I think it still looks so bad when someone holds up those huge iPads to take photos or videos. But I'm gonna let it slide with the mini. I've evolved, and I can absolutely see young creatives just being able to do a lot with this, putting handles on it, maybe using it as a dedicated rig. You get the larger screen, you can then edit video on it right after. This combination of size and power allows it just to do so much more than any mini before it. Now for me, I'm still gonna hold out, I'm not gonna get a mini because, even using this, I'm just the big screen iPad user. I've always been. I need to see my comics full screen. I need to see the videos as large as I can, but I also love this device. The mini still has a charm to it, and I would recommend it to anyone as the best small tablet experience if you're willing to pay for it. But this is absolutely one of Apple's best products of the year. Yes, it is new, but I think that they really threw everything they could at the mini with this latest design, refreshed the whole line. I mean, this is the new, and in the future, as costs go down, I'd say getting a ProMotion display would be the biggest improvement. I'd love to see that, and Face ID, they can still fit that into the bezel eventually. Those would really be my top 2 requests. And if they can, let's say, hey, because I approve, right? Bring a dual lens camera to this. I now support using iPad minis as cameras, but nothing bigger. So even if I'm not buying one, what do you think my verdict on the iPad mini is? Well, I think you can already sniff this one out. That's a good apple. I mean, really good, so good. This thing is nice, but gonna resist buying it, okay? Control yourself. Ooh, it's real good though.